Happy Thirsty Thursday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network. Also live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Mean Streets brought to you by So Rare. Welcome in. A lot to get to here on this show. A good old buddy of mine, we used to work together, a former Roto Experts employee. I do believe he officially worked for Roto Experts. I know we used to have him on FNTSY often, and I was always tuning in live every time he was on our network. Super, super sharp baseball mind, football mind, but we're going to chat some baseball. It's Matt Modica, a very successful high stakes player in the industry. And of course, something that we've been talking about on the show over the past couple of weeks, we've been diving into MLB team previews, high stakes leagues, showing you guys every single round of NFBC leagues over the last 6 weeks, where these players are going, players to target, players to fade, strategy. So we have a sharp mind here today that's going to help us through all of that. And we're going to take a look at the NL East, a powerhouse division, of course, up at the top with the Braves and the Mets. Both of these teams at 94.5 wins. Depending on where you look, we have the prop shop. It's your friend, free tool to get the best possible odds. I see basically the same odds when it comes to the Mets and the Braves to win the division. Of course, the Phillies as well, bringing in Trey Turner, going to be without Bryce Harper for the first couple of months of the season, I do believe, although the timetable for Bryce Harper is kind of all over the place. I saw something just yesterday that he could come back in May, that he's potentially ahead of schedule, but the Phillies, of course, went to the World Series. A rough go, a good go for Philadelphia fans, and a rough go at the same time. I know the Flyers have been atrocious for a couple years now, but the Eagles going to the Super Bowl but losing, and the Philadelphia Phillies going to the World Series and losing, but exciting runs for both of those squads. So we are going to break down that division, more so taking a look at the Phillies and the Mets and taking a look at some of their fantasy assets. I'd love to hear Matt's thoughts on what he's going to do with like closer situations, because we talk all the time about closers, and so people have come on this show said I won't grab a closer in the first 30, 40 picks, but something that we've really just preferenced on this show. If you are going to play in a rotisserie league and you are going to play in a high stakes league, you cannot punt. You can't punt it. You have, for me personally, I'm going to hear Matt's thoughts. I think you got to get a top 10 closer for sure, whether it's top 5, top 10, somebody outside the top 10, top 15, 17 that you feel could creep inside the top 10. Draft and holds, you're definitely going to have to attack the position, get a handful of guys. Maybe there's a couple towards the end of the draft that, Matt likes. And of course, if you're playing in the great fantasy baseball invitational, you can be aggressive, through Fab every week to get the closers, because there's a lot of teams that are going to have closer by committees, carousels. It's just going to happen all the time. It does happen. There's only a handful, in my opinion, elite closers that have the job locked down, and some other players are going to, chime in. And the Phillies may be one of those teams. They could have 3 guys, with double-digit saves. We know that Diaz is the man, and he is the first closer off the board for the New York Mets. So we're going to dive into that in just a little bit. Aaron Rodgers in the news here today. It's my pick. Nick's in the house. It's my pick of the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. I'm going to have to make the pick, I guess, in the commercial break, Nick. I appreciate you letting me know that. I did not get notified. I've been on the clock for a little bit. It's been a busy morning. There are 11 games in the NHL. Myself and Eric Young already broke down all 11 games on the ice. Dangle Batselli is live on our FTN Network YouTube page, coming your way on Game Plus Network as well. I got 40 minutes left. Oh my goodness, I'm holding down everybody. I'm that guy. You got a 4-hour clock in for the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. We have Justin Mason actually is going to join the show. Maybe tomorrow we'll break down all the great things that Justin does in the industry, and some strategy pieces from him as well. Maybe we can break down we're not going to break down Nick, maybe you want to join the show. You're in the league too. Maybe we want to talk about your team. I think we do have a couple guests lined up over the next couple of weeks, that people that are in the draft that are going to jump on, and we'll talk about the draft and some players. So we'll take a quick break here in a second. I will make my pick, and then we'll have Matt Modica come in, and we will get into some baseball talk here on Mean Streets. One thing I did want to say off the top of the show is Aaron Rodgers. I'm keep refreshing it. I'm doing it. I'm that guy. I'm that guy who's taking all the time to make my pick in the draft. And I'm that guy who is falling into the Aaron Rodgers trap again. Another year. Aaron Rodgers. We're doing the whole song and dance, the whole circle. Some reports suggest that the Jets are optimistic that they're going to be able to get a deal done here with Aaron Rodgers. And of course, the Packers gave him permission to go talk to the Jets yesterday in California. A trade would have to happen. The assets there. Does Rodgers restructure his deal, his contract? Does he just straight up retire? Does he just say, you know what, screw it, I'm going back to Green Bay? Everything is possible. But something I wanted to say, the Jets, 18-1 to win the Super Bowl, 10-1 to win the AFC, and plus 250 to win the division. May not be a bad little sprinkle on him to win the division. I still think the Bills will be the team to beat. The Bills will still be the team to beat inside the AFC East, in my opinion. No question. I think that they're sound all over the football field. Of course, losing Frazier, we'll see how the defense does react, but Bills fans will tell you, man, kind of happy that he is out the door. We'll see. I think Modica is a Bills fan. Maybe we can chop it up with him just for a second. But yeah, we're waiting on news. It would be great news for Garrett Wilson, even Elijah Moore. I'm not ready to close the book on Elijah Moore. He's a good wide receiver, had a great rookie season last year, was a mess. And there was, listen, the quarterbacks that they threw out there, and Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson clearly doesn't have it. And Mike White, he's had some moments, fun story, right? Doesn't really have it. Would be great news for Elijah Moore, who I think is a good buy low candidate in dynasty leagues. Garrett Wilson, don't part your ways with him. He's a terrific player in the league, and that would be great news for him. Although Aaron Rodgers did not have a great season last year. He threw a lot of interceptions. It wasn't as accurate as we've seen before in the past. So we'll see what does happen there as well. Daily Handle in the house. Oh my goodness. Breaking news. Aaron Rodgers traded to the Jets. Look at this guy. Oh man, he's got the beanie on. He's the captain. The Jets don't have a captain. He would immediately be the captain if he went to the Winnipeg Jets. Can he skate? I don't know. Can Aaron Rodgers skate? We probably have to ask Pat McAfee that if he can skate. That's fantastic. George is like on the fly. Are you kidding me? What else can you break here today? Breaking news from you. Daily Handle in the house. I'm up early this morning, dude, watching the World Baseball Classic. Big W from Shohei Ohtani in Japan there, an 8-1 victory this morning. Exciting times. As we mentioned, March is just the best sports month. We got our own Mike Randall down there watching some college basketball. Ooh, it's all happening. He should be back to his darkness retreat, taking shots. I probably got 35 minutes left to make the pick. Quick break. Modica's in here next. Going to go make the pick in the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational. And we'll talk NL East here. Mets, Phillies. Talk about some of the assets inside the division and some strategy talk here for high stakes players over at FBC and other companies that offer that. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight. Welcome back in. You're watching Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network or FTN Network YouTube page. Chris Meaney, as we're bringing in Matt Modica here at CTM Baseball on the Twitter machine. Matt, it's been a long time, man. Appreciate you taking the time here. Mean Streets presented by So Rare. A lot to get to. Welcome in, man. It's been a while. How are you?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. Pretty stoked right now. 2 weeks from yesterday, I will be in Vegas for the NFBC drafts and all that fun stuff. So it's happening. It's here.
It's here, man. It's exciting. You're going to have your graph paper ready to go? Graph paper
The
handy.
graph
Always
paper is
handy.
getting, yes, I'm sorry. Graph paper is getting heavy use right now.
Absolutely love it. I started some football off the top of the show. I do believe you're a Bills guy, right? Are you a Buffalo? If memory serves me correct, are you a Bills guy?
Yes. I am a big, long-time suffering Bills fan. I became a Bills fan back in the mid-'80s when the USFL folded and Jim Kelly was coming aboard. I hated the fact that the Jets moved to New Jersey and played in Giant Stadium, so I got off that train.
So what is it? How does it make you feel with the potential of Aaron Rodgers coming into the division? Do you care? Like, this guy's older, does he still have it? Like, it's clearly an upgrade over what they have right now. What does it make you? What are the feelings that you have when you hear that Rodgers could be inside the division?
I mean, if I was a Jet fan, I'd be excited. I would be going after Lamar Jackson if I was them. I would just, pony up whatever I had to do. But it's a major upgrade. I heard you mentioning Garrett Wilson. They have the team, the young running back who got hurt. Bryce? Bryce
Hall, yeah.
Bryce Hall. Thank you. He was tremendous before injury. I think their defense is really good. I don't think their defense is great, like everybody was saying, but it's a really good team that just needs a quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. They really do just need a quarterback, and we'll see. I'm surprised too to hear all these teams come out and say that they're not interested in Lamar Jackson. Oh, Lamar's never won anything. He's injury prone. Guys, he's 26. He's 26. He already has an MVP on his resume.
That's not the reason, in my opinion. In my opinion, nobody wants to give that guaranteed contract that Cleveland gave to Watson, and that's what they're all holding out on. They don't want to set that precedent.
And I do get it, right? I mean, there's been some injury seasons the past couple of years. The season hasn't ended the way that he is like to. He runs around a lot, so there's some risk. The Brownies ruined it for everybody. All that money for Deshaun Watson, so they don't want to set that precedent. But let's get into some baseball talk here. Let's talk about one of the most powerful divisions in Major League Baseball. It is the NL East, and up at the top, you see the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. Both of these teams at 94.5 their win totals, and last season they both won 101 games, right? They were fantastic from start to finish. So prop shop's your friend to get the best possible odds, but I see 94.5 for the Mets and the Braves, and plus 140, the best possible odds I'm seeing if you want to back the Mets to win the division, and the Braves at plus 145, the Phillies at 88.5 at plus 375. Massive long shots here for the Miami Marlins at 60-1, their win total at 74.5, and the Nationals at 61.5 for the iTunes and Spotify listeners. They check in at 300-1. It's going to be another long year, I think, for Washington. Before we get into the Braves, the Mets and the Phillies, the Atlanta Braves, I know we're going to dive into really deeper into the Mets and the Phillies, but I still think like Atlanta is probably the team to beat. Am I unfair in thinking that? They still have a lot of pieces. They got a lot of just young pieces. I've loved what they've done with their organization over the past few years and locking up some of these pieces in really good contracts. And it seems like every other year there's this like electric starting pitcher, and Strider's that guy. I mean, I see in high stakes leagues, he's going as like a top 5 pitcher, dude. Do you have any shares yet of him?
I have a couple. I don't have as many. I was on the Rodon train earlier, and then he just got shot up. And I did love Rodon. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but obviously, he's kind of off the board right now. But Strider will be there. Strider will go top 20 and at about the turn as well in the live drafts.
Yeah. So if as somebody who follows the Mets closely, is that the team that scares you the most inside the division, the Atlanta Braves, and what they can offer?
Absolutely. I mean, the Braves are one of the best run franchises in baseball. Just loads of young talent. I believe it was from like June 1st on, they won 77 games. They got off to a bad start. They just keep replenishing it, and they sign their guys up long term. I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic as a Mets fan, but to me, the team to beat is the Braves. They won the World Series 2 years ago. Yes, the Phillies knocked them off in the playoffs, but they have the most complete team in that division, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. And, even losing Freddie Freeman didn't seem like they really missed a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, they can bring it. They got some nice chucking and a decent bullpen as well. It should be fantastic. I love both of those teams to make the playoffs, and even the Phillies. We'll get into them a little bit. Let's transition into the New York Mets. And Matt, we do have, again, another board here with just win total. And these are the players. If Quan, if you could just check, thank you. The 94.5, which we just do in the NL East there at plus 140, the NL pennant at plus 420, and to win the World Series at 8-1. The odds have changed. Just 3 weeks ago, they were 10-1 to win the World Series. So I think some money coming in on the Mets. And as you see Justin Verlander there as the pitcher, and as somebody who's been following this team for quite some time, and Jacob deGrom, it's going to feel pretty weird to see Jacob deGrom in another jersey this year, isn't it, Matt?
Definitely will. He's become my favorite player. He's just when on the field, he's elite, the best pitcher. I mean, I guess it's his kind of run is like a little bit like a modern day Sandy Koufax, where didn't have all the years, but the dominance was there.
Do you have any shares yet of Jacob deGrom? How do you feel about him in a high stakes league? I think, a draft and hold may be a little bit riskier. But do you have any shares yet? Or you're willing to roll the dice on him? Because man, I've noticed in, the Great Fantasy Baseball Invitational, man, some people are a little shy, and it could create some value. I mean, we all know the pitcher that he is. If he were to give, I don't know, even just 160 innings, like this guy will return value, don't you think?
Yes, I mean 160 innings. I think you hit a home run. My philosophy as of now has been in the 150 DCs. I'm willing to take him, really, with no issue there. But as we creep up to the 400s or the higher stake ones, I'm a bit more hesitant, especially in that format where, there's no fab and, you're just rolling with the guys you have. I mean, I think if he gets you to 140, it's a win because he's that good. You're probably going to get 200 strikeouts in the elite ratios. It's definitely a risk tolerance thing. But definitely not an easy pick. And I think
not an easy pick at all.
It was a big Twitter debate like a day or two ago that I saw.
I must have missed that. Was that about Julio Urias? Did it have a little Urias
in there as well? I think it started with the Urias, and then I think Derek Carty said, hot take, DeGrom should be going in the first round, which to me, he is the 1-1. But if you're putting up, $1,700 or $2,500 for a draft, you're not going to be as apt to take DeGrom. I'm sorry. Money does change the equation. If I was playing in, TG. I'm sorry, I'm screwing up the name, but
no, you're good. I do it all the time as well. The Great Fantasy Baseball Invitation. I'm always like, I forget to throw the F in there, but I do like the TG FBI. But yeah, that's a different format. It's free, right? It's fun. You could take some risks. You take some gambles. You're shooting for ceiling. I'm right there with you. Like if I'm spending that kind of dough on, a high stakes league, I don't think I'm doing it, man. Like I like them. Fine, but there's a lot of risk, and I can't.
Just for the flip side, like Carlos Rodon, I mean, I really loved him this year. He was my number 3 starting pitcher. But thankfully, the couple of big ones that did occur already, I missed out on him by like 2 picks. I probably would have taken him in at least one of them. And now that the big drafts are coming up, I've been spared.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's get into the players that are actually on the Mets. Colin, if you can bring up that board again. So we've shown here for the viewers that are a little bit unfamiliar, maybe you're just checking in because Modica is joining us here, and we do appreciate Kansas City Mooses in the house. Maddie, what is up? Welcome in. So we have like Pete Alonso, first baseman, the 3 next to him. So on average, over the last 6 weeks, NFBC high stakes leagues, a lot of drafts have taken place, a lot of big bucks, as you mentioned. On the line here as well. So on average, he is pick 18. In brackets, you'll see the ADP, and then the 3rd first baseman off the board, Francisco Lindor, the 5th shortstop off the board, pick 32. I actually did grab him in the TG FBI. Edwin Diaz, the first closer off the board, pick 35. Justin Verlander now in the house. Max Scherzer, 2 guys older, but still have a lot to offer in real life and in fantasy. I think you have to decide which one you like. Maybe you double tap depending on where you are in the draft. Verlander pitcher 10 on average, pick 42. Scherzer pitcher 13, pick 48. Starling Marte, man, I really notice in that format, outfielders really dry up. You got a roster of 5 of them, right, in your starting lineup. Outfielder 22, a top 100 pick. Nemo's in there. Jeff McNeil, he's got second and outfield eligibility on average, the 40th outfielder off the board, 13th second baseman off the board. And then Kodai Senga, we can get into him in a little bit, maybe the expectations. It's tough to really translate, the game overseas and how he's going to, react to here North American ball. But I really want to talk to you about Verlander and Scherzer. Do you have a preference between either or?
I've kind of been going back and forth on both. Maybe now I'm leaning a little more Verlander. I mean, Verlander, every time he's pitched, has just been really, really good. I mean, the same for Scherzer. Scherzer, the last couple of seasons, has had these injuries. And I think for both, you have to set your expectations at like 160, 175 as a cap. I think that's the realistic way to do it. I'd be happy with either, but I think right now maybe I'm slightly leaning Verlander.
I think Verlander seems to be a little bit safer, as you mentioned. Every time he touches the hill, I mean, with the Astros, he wasn't giving up anything. It wasn't the same sort of strikeout guy. I think it's probably fair to say you maybe get more punch outs with Max Scherzer. But, he does, both guys kind of, give up the long ball here and there, but it's a good pitcher's ballpark. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of these guys. And it's such a solid rotation when you get into the postseason to have to face maybe these guys, 4 times potentially, like in a best of 7. Are you kidding me? That's crazy. How about Edwin Diaz? You talked off the strategy about, high stakes leagues and not punting saves. Are you willing to spend a top 35 pick on Edwin Diaz in high stakes leagues? And what is your overall strategy when it comes to saves and closers?
Real quick on Verlander, just for the people, in the second half of the season last year, he had a 31% strikeout percentage. So I know the swinging strike didn't match up with that, but I think he's getting knocked a little for not being able to strike guys out. So and he'll be another year removed from Tommy John. As far as Diaz goes, I think, him or Clase are the 2 guys I would be willing to do it. I've done the Diaz and the Clase on separate occasions. And for them, I get it because you solve that, especially in a draft champions where you really, you can go specking after that. You don't really need to get that second closure. I mean, you can, but you'll feel a lot more comfortable specking on other guys. But after Diaz and Clase, it's like Hader, I think will be fine, but I haven't taken him. I really like Raciel Iglesias out of the remaining group. But a lot of them, everybody has I can make a case against all of them after them.
Yeah, Iglesias, I do believe, is on average the 7th closer off the board. He's a really good arm, and when the Braves acquired him, he wasn't the closer, right? But now he is, of course, the closer there in Atlanta. What about the bats? What do you make of the bats? I mean, there really doesn't seem to be any holes here with Alonso, Lindor, Marte give you a bit of speed. We talk about the outfielder position drying up pretty quickly. A little bit older, but still, a guy that can get on base and make things happen for you. Nimmo there as well, and McNeil. What do you make of some of these bats? Do you have a favorite? Is there a fade at all on this board? What do you think?
My favorite is Alonso, and maybe in the past that early it wasn't a profile I was looking at. But I think the 2 things that are most scarce in fantasy baseball is elite pitching always. I know people are saying it's pushed back, but once you get involved and as the stakes go up, the pitching gets pushed up. And elite production, a guy that can, do 40, 100, and give you a good batting average. So I'm definitely in on Pete. You do have to, solve that speed problem, but I think him and like an Austin Riley type, just to make a reference.
Yeah.
Those guys, I would be fine having one of those 2 in the first 2 rounds. The rest of the guys, I really don't have. And as far as Lindor goes, I kind of am more of a Jazz Chisholm guy than a Lindor guy this year. I think Jazz is that 3rd round player who could be the first who could return first round value. I tweeted the other day, if you like Bobby Witt, if Bobby Witt was in the 3rd round, you'd smash that pick every time. That's Jazz, that's Jazz Chisholm. They're basically the same profile. The health concerns, obviously. The rest of the Mets, Marte's coming off double groin surgery or something.
Ugh.
I mean, I like Nimmo. He's solid and steady. McNeil, I'm kind of fading because I think he's a really good real life baseball player, and he
Yeah.
will give you the average, but it's not enough what I'm looking for at that point. And Senga is just a lottery ticket to me. I have no idea. If I told you something, I'm basically just, making shit up. So,
And I love it. I love the honesty, right?
you
I
gotta
don't
be.
think anybody knows. Nobody
Yeah.
knows how his game is going to come over and translate. They just don't know. I'm looking at some projections over at Fangraphs. Steamer's pretty aggressive with the K per nine. He's got him at 10.23 K per nine. Most other projections have him around 9. The bat, as you mentioned earlier, 8.55 for the K per nine, and an ERA of 4.61. Everybody's got it kind of living in the 3.5. I don't know if he's going to be a big strikeout guy, but even some of the projections have him nearly at 4 walks per 9. I thought he'd be maybe a little bit more command than that, but we'll see.
I did too. I'll give your audience a little sleeper pick here. David Peterson. It looks like he's going to get that chance as long as the foot's okay. I did a tweet the other day comparing two guys going 260 picks apart. It was Nick Lodolo and David Peterson. Obviously, I'd rather have Lodolo, but for the price, you're getting a guy with similar attributes. I mean, Peterson's slider is just pure filth. So, that's what you got to look. You got to find traits later on for things. So that's my Met sleeper for.
Love it. I was going to ask you for a Met sleeper, and I do love Lodolo, man. That guy, he's got it going on, good. Man. Yeah, very good. I think on average, like pitcher 40 or so. Hunter Green going a little bit earlier than him, but I definitely like Nick Lodolo. And I love the Jazz call. I had a lot of shares of Jazz, and unfortunately with the injury, but they got the power speed. Going to play a little outfield this year for Miami as well. The cover boy of MLB The Show. Yeah, he's a phenomenal player, fun player as well to watch. So I like that little tidbit of you giving us that, and the fact that, Francisco Lindor, great, but a little bit later on than that, Jazz as well as Bobby Witt. People are really aggressive taking Bobby. I was kind of surprised. I get it. The power speed, young player, hasn't even come close to tapping his potential yet, but I was still surprised to see him go as early as, he is going. I don't know. Do you have any shares? Is it too early?
I just took my first share of Bobby Witt. I get the case. Third base, you're going to get 30 stolen bases, maybe more, and he should hit at least 20 homers. So in fantasy, is he the best MLB player? That's not the case. That doesn't really matter here. Is he going to provide you with those stats? I don't see, if he's healthy, how he doesn't hit at least around 20 homers and steal a minimum of 30 bases. So I understand it, but I really haven't been taking him.
Over under Mets 94.5 wins.
I'm going to go under. I think for the division, all three teams could finish in the low 90s. And, last year, I know the Mets and the Braves had 101. The bad news is they don't get to play the Marlins and Nationals 19 times each, but they don't have to play each other as much. So it's, kind of a give and take there. But I think all three teams have a possibility of finishing the low 90s.
Yeah, like I said, it's very top heavy with those three teams. I would agree with you. It's tough to take an over at 94.5, right? Even though, as you mentioned, they hit the century mark. It's tough to take any baseball team, those mid 90s, like the Astros and the Yankees and Braves here included. And the Phillies, I think, 88.5, I kind of lean to the over on that one, is these three teams being like in the low 90s, to your point. And it is too bad. It's nice that you don't have to play them, 19 times, but to get those softball matchups against the Nationals and Miami, even though I do like some of the Miami arms that they have, there's some sneaky arms inside that rotation, but still not anywhere close to being competitive with those other squads. Matt, we'll take a quick break if you don't mind. We'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll switch gears and we will talk about the Philadelphia Phillies here next on Mean Streets. Keep her locked.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Watching Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network, presented by So Rare. Chris Meaney and Matt Modica at CTM Baseball, a very successful high-stakes player. Learning a thing or two here from Matt. Appreciate the time here today on this Thursday. We are going to transition over to the Philadelphia Phillies. The big acquisition, of course, Trey Turner, and I think we already said it in the last block. We both kind of like the over here, 88.5. The NL East at plus 375 to win the division, to win the pennant, plus 850. 17-1 to win the World Series. A rotation led by Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler bringing in Taijuan Walker, former Met there. But a loaded lineup, top heavy for sure, and a really nice run from the Phillies. Powerhouse Bryce Harper there. I don't know if you have anything for Bryce Harper. I've seen conflicting reports. Could come back in May, not sure. As we transition over just some of the players and the ADP there, Quan, we do have Bryce Harper on average over the last 6 weeks going as pick 178. We'll maybe touch on him in just a second. I want to ask you about Trey Turner. So pick 3. I don't know if you remember a year like this, Matt. You've been doing it for a lot longer than me, but NFBC, the min pick, man, you can make a case for 6 or 7 guys here. Ronald Acuna Jr. over the last 5 weeks, Acuna Jr. has gone a min pick of 1. Judge 1. Turner 1. Jose Ramirez 1. Julio Rodriguez 1. Shohei Ohtani 1. Kyle Tucker 2. And Yordan Alvarez 2. But 2 months ago, Yordan Alvarez, I saw him go as 1 as well. I think maybe the hand contusion. There's a big disparity now between the min and the max for him at 24. The max for Acuna Jr. at 8. Judge 8. Turner 9. Ramirez 8. Rodriguez 9. That's a little crazy. But if you had first overall pick, who would you take? And it's got to be pretty tough, because for me, I would battle with my head with a few of those guys.
It's definitely a tough situation. There's been a top 6 that's formed, maybe even top 7 if you want to include Ohtani. But for me, it's going to come down to either Ronald Acuna or the kid from Seattle.
Julio. I'm with you. Those are the 2 for me as well. Absolutely.
Julio, he's just, I don't see. I think he's going to run. I know people said he didn't really run in the second half. He's going to run. I'm not worried about that. Those are the 2. By the numbers, though, it's really Aaron Judge. I don't think Judge is going to steal 16 bases again this year. I don't think he's going to hit 62 homers again this year. Probably hit 40-something and still be a beast. Give you a really good average and all those numbers. But for me, it's those 2, and it is a preference, because I see Turner go 1 a lot as well.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, going to come at you with some speed, and I agree with what you said. I mean, the 2 guys for me are Julio Rodriguez and Ronald Acuna Jr., but I mean, nothing against anybody who wants to take Judge and the power that he has, and Trey Turner atop of the order. The plate appearances that he's going to get, a little bit of power and some speed there from him. Even still at his age, he's still swiping bags, and I think Jose Ramirez is kind of that one that, I don't know if he gets disrespected, but, the third base position, to have a guy who can do touch a lot of categories for you there, as well as Kyle Tucker. So there's a lot of different avenues that you could go. I'm not sure you can go wrong with any of those picks. JT Realmuto. I know in high stakes leagues, NFBC, you have to roster 2 catchers. How do you go about that strategy? And would you spend a top 25 pick on Realmuto?
I think I've only done it once. I've been more of the wait on catcher guy in the past. I am trying to get the one good catcher in the first, 10 rounds, maybe first 8 rounds. I think Realmuto is going to have some competition this year with Varsho. He's not going to have to play catcher, and he's going to get stolen bases as well, and his defense will keep him in the lineup. I know he had some issues against lefties. But, as far as Realmuto goes, he's just a stud. it's a solid pick. You're going to get, anywhere from 12 to 15, maybe even more stolen bases with home runs and average. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It's probably not how I'm going to build because I want the elite production guy and I want that one stud starting pitcher in the first 2 rounds. On most occasions, every draft is different, but that's my basic philosophy for this year.
I can't do it myself personally. I know if people are playing in head-to-head formats, it's different, but high stakes, I mean, you got to roster 2 catchers. I'm with you. I like to get one top 10, maybe one top 12, and then just kind of wait towards the end of my drafts and, pick maybe a second and a third and, around, I don't know, between rounds 18 and 22 or 23 or something like that personally. But just to give you an idea of players that are going in around JT Realmuto, I mean, you mentioned Austin Riley, Rafael Devers, Paul Goldschmidt, Michael Harris, second, Sandy Alcantara, Nolan Arenado, Jose Altuve is the first second baseman off the board, Spencer Strider, Lindor, Semien. There's some really, I mean, even just before that, like Corbin Burns, Pete Alonso, Mike Trout, Garrett Cole. So there's a lot of really good players. And it's not a knock on JT Realmuto. I mean, the guy, as you mentioned, is an absolute stud. It just seems to be a little bit rich for me to spend a 3rd round pick on him. Who really jumps out here? I mean, there's a lot of nice pieces. I guess we can go to Harper. Like, how far does Harper have to fall? Or do you just bypass a guy like Harper who maybe a setback happens? Maybe you're without him for a couple months. Who really knows? Like, how far does he have to fall before you pull the trigger on Bryce?
I think I have 1 or 2 shares. In the DC, it's tough to roster an injured guy that's going to be out for 2-3 months. I think with this ADP you have up, that's like the 12th round in a 15-teamer. That's too rich for me. It would have to be like that 15 to 17 range for me to be interested at this point in time, unless something, unless some new news develops where he'll be ready in May. Because, I mean, it's a lot to ask. There's a lot of players that you're drafting right now that you're drafting for 6 months. Obviously, it's Bryce Harper. So, I mean, I do get the allure.
Absolutely. Right. A fantastic season from last year. And just under the bright lights, he was great, man, in the postseason. He really was. Okay. You see a lot of names here. Who's your favorite 1 or 2 that you like?
I mean, Aaron Nola, I love for it's 200 innings, it's 200 strikeouts. Last year was the first year I was off of Nola. He's always been a favorite of mine, and I got burned by that, and I am back in. I just think Woody's going to give you the consistency. So give me that. I'll give you my fade here on this list. It's Rhys Hoskins. I haven't touched him all draft season. He's not one of the first. This is really 3 first basemen that I'm looking at. They go around his range a little later after him. And the one guy that used to be up north by you, Rowdy Tellez, is someone I draft basically every draft. I am not diversifying. I am not diversifying at all for him. But, I would take Christian Walker. I would take Ryan Mountcastle over Hoskins. So he's not a target of mine.
Hoskins is a weird one for me to figure out. I know when he broke onto the scene, he was a guy that just he smashed righties. I think it was like 2017. He smashed righties and he also hit righties well in 2018. And then all of a sudden he had the season of 2019 where he hit lefties well. Last year at the 286 average against lefties and it just didn't hit righties well. I agree. I don't actually have any shares of Hoskins just yet. I'm with you on Nola. I think Wheeler's another guy that can flirt with, maybe not 200 strikeouts, but 170 plus. He's been fantastic over the past couple of years. And how about Alec Baum? And this guy kind of came out of nowhere right around the time where he was like, you know what? I hate it here. I hate Philadelphia. I hate this place. Do you believe in him as a player?
You know what? I think for who he is right now, I mean, look, I think he has 3 homers in spring training. If he ever gets the lift on the ball, then he could really be a home run pick where he's going. I don't have any. It's not that I don't like him, but in that 12th round range, I'm either grabbing a pitcher in most cases, a second baseman with speed, or if he's there, I smash Danny Jansen's every time. He's nice. One of my faves too. But I totally get it. He's a guy, like I said, if he can get the ball in the air more and over the fence, he could really be a home run pick.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the ground ball rate. It's 49% for his career. I know the first 2 years were 50% for the career as well. Brendan Marsh may be a sneaky guy too. I think in those deeper formats, is somebody going to hit in the 9 spot, maybe get you a little bit of speed, not a ton of power, but his defense is good enough to keep him in, I think, in the lineup almost every single day. And who knows who's going to be the closer at the end of the day in Philadelphia. I think Sir Anthony for now.
Mm-hmm. I would lean Sir
guys.
Anthony, but like you say, they got like 4 different options. I mean, if it was me, I would probably give him the run first. Mm-hmm. I think all good teams, I don't really buy that, it's the manager. He never wants to, have a set closer. If they have somebody that can get the job done, they will ride that guy. But like Gabe Kapler has that connotation to his name. He hasn't had really good closers. Every time he's tried, everybody blows up on him.
Good point.
Duval last year got the job done, and they basically rode him. But prior to that, when he was in Philadelphia or in San Francisco, he hasn't had that one guy. The Phillies don't have that one guy right now. I give the edge to Sir Anthony, but they made the trade with the Tigers. They signed Kimbrel, so we'll see how that plays out. But that would be my bet. If I had a bet on one, it would be Sir Anthony.
Yeah, and pretty much free, right? Quote unquote, like pick 288 there on average.
Yeah, but it's still not a free. It's still there's still cost. I mean, you're still giving up somebody like say a Steven Matz or an Aaron Savale's there. That's a back end starter that's got upside that you're passing on there. So it's tough. It really is tough to spec. And that's the argument for the Edwin Diaz, the Clases.
Yeah,
you don't really got to worry about that. And you got at least that one guy that's giving you 35 or more saves with great ratios.
I know it may not feel for people that are just getting into it I know there's been a few people on this show that have told me like getting away from just their drafts with their buddies and they want to kind of get their feet wet and with high stakes drafts. They feel a little uneasy taking that closer, but I tell you what, it goes a long way. You get more balance of a team and you're not going to be able to, it's all about winning. You're not going to be able to be successful if you punt that position. You got to have a top 10, I think.
If I can give any just a smidgen of advice here, if you're gonna before every draft, you should have a plan. I try and map out the pitching. Look, things are going to change. Players you didn't think were going to fall to you, but if you think you're going to go with that elite closer, map it out. If I take him in the second round, what am I doing in rounds 3, 4, 5? How's my team going to look after 5 rounds? And if you do that, you're not going to be like, oh my God, the guy I wanted in the 3rd round's gone. What do I do now? So, having that plan and mapping it out really helps you.
Good advice. Great advice. Do you mind sticking around for 2 more minutes? I want to get let's take another quick break and just 2 more minutes to get like a player or two that you have a lot of shares of, maybe outside of this division. A little bit of a sneak peek there for the people. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win.
Chris Meaney and Matt Modica here. Mean Streets presented by So Rare on Game Plus Network as well as FTN Network. Matt, we'll get you out of here on this. Maybe a player or two, somebody that you have a lot of shares of, somebody that you like this season. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, I'm not diversifying as much. I have some core guys that I will draft every time. Taylor Ward is one of them. I think he has a great shot to lead the league in runs scored. I mean, if he's healthy, Ohtani's healthy, and Trout's healthy, that's asking a lot. But that top of the lineup is fantastic. I know it's not usually a good thing to bet on a guy who's a little older, but what he showed last year, I believe he was hurt in the summer for a month or two where he had a little low, but he finished strong. I will be aggressive on him in the next week or two because I think you're going to have to pay an even higher price. So he's definitely one hitter. I'll give you a pitcher that is the most disrespected, in my opinion, who goes in that 14th, 15th round. I don't think the 16th. Let's say 14, 15 is an Alex Cobb. I mean, by then you should have your pitching foundation built. And there's few guys that, just looking under the hood and doing the research and the deep dive, the guy's really good. I mean, if you believe in the estimators and all that, now San Francisco's defense is terrible. Can it be as bad as last year? I'm betting it won't. Will it be much improved? Probably not. But he just needs a little luck on his side. And I think you can possibly get a tremendous pitcher. Yes, he's 35 years old. There's injury risk, but that's baked in at his price.
I love that call. As somebody that we talked a lot about on this show is like a strikeout prop from here to there because it was like super low. And I thought he was one of the most unluckiest pitchers like in the second half of last season as well. So love the call. And I'm not going to fight you on the Taylor Ward call as a Halos guy here. I do like that one too. It is a big if. Did the Angels make the playoffs this year or what?
I think they got a shot. I really do. If that bullpen can come together, I think they got a lot of depth in the starting rotation. You got Griffin Canning is healthy. He pitched a couple innings yesterday. I really like the kid Chase Silseth, who appeared last year. I think he's got to work on a couple of things, but they have that depth there. Ben Joyce is a wild card because guy throws 105. He pitched in college, so I don't think he needs that much seasoning in the minors. So if the bullpen isn't up to par in the first couple of months, I think you're going to see Ben Joyce get a shot.
I love that call. I know a lot of people talk about Detmers, but I think Patrick Sandoval is like pretty underrated as well, man. Like I think he's a decent little target in the middle parts of your draft.
I think both of them are. I think with Sandoval, I'll say real quick, I think it clicked with him in the second half. It's about the second half, he changed it. He threw the slider like 32%. The changeup is his best pitch. He still threw that a lot, but the fastball went down. And he just said recently how he's going to throw his fastball less. He needs to throw the changeup more. So you're seeing the maturation. That's what I look for. I call it addition by subtraction. Reed Detmers in the second half, one of the best things the Angels did was demote him. He came back. The slider had like 3.5 miles on it when he came back. He threw a different slider. He said he had changed it up. And his swinging strike percentage was up 4% in the second half of the year. I think he's somebody that can take he can take that next step. Even if he doesn't take the next step, I still think he's going to be really good. I mean, you look at these guys going in the 13th, 14th round. Sometimes Sandoval is still living in the early 15th. So it's where you're getting these guys. And people worry about the 6-day or the 6-man rotation. They're going to get like 28 starts.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question. He was a different pitcher when he was when he was called back up. He certainly was a different pitcher. Matt, you're fantastic, man. It was really good to catch up with you as well. Good luck in Vegas. Enjoy, and hopefully you have a successful draft, and good luck with all of your drafts and to your New York Mets and Buffalo Bills. We'll say goodbye to Matt Modica right now, CTM Baseball. Follow him on Twitter. Great sports guy right there for you. Got some NHL picks to round out Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight. Cheers, dude. Welcome back in. 11 games on the ice. A lot of different ways to go here. I got some shot props here for you. Up at the top, Michael Matheson of the Montreal Canadiens. Man, he played nearly 28 minutes the other night. He's logging so much ice for the Habs. Basically, I mean, this is a team that has the most man games lost. A lot of their defensemen are young bucks, rookies. They're really leaning on Michael Matheson here. He's cleared 2.5 shots in 7 straight games. He did it the other night against a really tough Carolina Hurricanes team, so I believe he can do it tonight against the Rangers. It just takes a couple of power plays. That's it. Nick Suzuki doesn't want to shoot the puck. He kind of plays pitch and catch with Matheson. He get a couple of shot attempts from the blue line. So Matheson is, as I mentioned, logging a lot of ice time. And the shot attempts have been there. Martin Necas, 135 at DraftKings. He's juiced other spots. Maybe put him into a parlay if this number does get out of hand. A great matchup against the Philadelphia Flyers here. He's cleared 2.5 shots in 4 of his 5. We're going to take Jason Robertson all day long if we're going to get minus 125 at 3.5. He should be at 4.5 in my opinion. He's had at least 4 shots in 6 straight games. He has 2 multi-point games in his last 3. He's plus 188 for a 2-point night tonight against the Buffalo Sabres, who give up a lot of high-quality chances. They can't really keep the puck out of their net. Should be a highly entertaining game between the Stars and the Sabres. I like Group A Hintz as well at 2.5 shots. Hintz at plus 160 to have an assist. I think Robertson has a 2-point night, so Hintz should hit the score sheet with Jason Robertson having a night. Anders Lee has just absolutely owned the Pittsburgh Penguins over the last 6 games. They played the Pens twice over the last 2 months. Both victories for the Islanders. Lee, 3 goals, a couple, 5 points, 2.5 shots plus money. He's cleared 2.5 shots in 7 of his last 10, and in both of those games against the Penguins, including 3 straight games here. A couple games there was 6. Jared McCann is absolutely on fire. This guy, I mean, he can't stop him right now. And I like the matchup against the Ottawa Senators. I'm surprised we're getting this price at minus 112. It is a bet of the day. He is cleared in 4 straight games. Tim Stützle and Victor Arvidsson have been absolutely automatic as well. And be surprised, the Avs are inside the top 5 in shot attempts allowed at 5 and 5 per 60 over the last 6 weeks of the season. Timmy Stützle gets about 4 every other night. So both of those guys in a parlay at plus 160. My favorite play next here on Mean Streets. Keep her locked.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at ftnbets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN Data.
My favorite bet of the day, proceed with caution, George. It's Dawson Mercer to pick up a point, minus 130. He enters on a 10-game point streak. This from DraftKings. He has 17 points over those 10 games, 10 goals and 7 assists. He's also plus 160 for a matchup against the Washington Capitals, who have allowed at least 3 goals in 9 of their last 10 games. And, they've been kind of lit up by some brutal teams as well. I mean, they lost to the Ducks. They gave up 4 goals to Anaheim. They gave up 3 goals to the Sharks. pretty decent spot for Dawson Mercer up on that top line next to Nico Hischier. He's played 20-plus minutes in back-to-back games. Mercer picks up a point at -130, and don't be surprised if it is an assist at +160. Other than that, you're on their own. Good luck on the ice. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers.